Hello Leo, Leo rising and Leo moon people. This is your monthly astrological horoscope for April 2017. And a quick reminder for all you Leos out there, remember these monthly horoscopes are talking about the big sweeping themes of the season, and a lot of them go on for much longer than, say, a day, or a week, or 2 weeks even. And some of these things are going to be going on until September. So this month is kind of a big month in a lot of ways, because we do have a lot of retrogrades, but I don't want you to be worried, because some of these retrogrades are exactly what the doctor ordered for you. So let's get started here and see what I'm talking about. So when it comes to the beginning of the month, Venus is currently retrograde in Aries, moving into Pisces, and Venus will be retrograde in Pisces, your 8th house of shared resources, intimacy, and self-employment income, from about the 2nd of the month all the way up until the 15th. And remember, with Venus retrograde, like I said, in March, we got to watch out for the three things: the insecurities, the trust issues, temptation, and the need for instant gratification in these areas. Because what can happen is this can kind of rile up some of the things we don't feel sure about, some of the things we don't feel confident about, some of the things that we do feel a little bit worried about, and it can make us a little bit more prone, a little bit more sensitive, and a little bit more reactive. And maybe it's not just us, maybe it's other people, maybe it's business partners, maybe it's clients, maybe it's romantic partners. Because with Venus retrograde in the shared resources area, there could be some issues about who's bringing what money to the table, who's going out and drumming up that business. We may have to have that discussion about whether or not we're sharing our finances the right way. When it comes to self-employment income, you may be thinking it's time to reinvest. You may be thinking it's time to start putting your money where your mouth is. And be careful about the temptation to throw money around with Venus retrograde, especially in the 8th house when it comes to investing in yourself, your business, or pushing your profession, because we may accidentally write a bunch of checks that in the future we never intended to cash, or have cashed in the first place. After the 15th, things seem to be a little bit more easy. And when I mean a little bit, I mean a lot of it. Because after the 15th, with Venus going direct in this area, we're having a lot more calm, a lot more affection, and a lot more romance and private time for you and your sweetheart. Because with Venus retrograde the first 2 weeks of the month, sometimes there can be uncomfortable extremes that kind of go on with Venus retrograde, whether it's an imbalance of things happening too much, an imbalance of things happening not enough, or people putting way too much stock in their physical life. And we have a nice balance coming in here, and a lot of healing as well after the 15th. So just let that come when it does. On the 6th of the month, we do have Saturn going retrograde in Sagittarius, in your 5th house of love, romance, and your relationships with your kids. And this might be exactly what a lot of you Leo people want to hear. Because with Saturn in the 5th house, it's a bit of a challenge to meet new people. Because what it does is, it's really trying hard to help you find the right love, but Saturn doesn't do well with experimentation. Saturn doesn't really give us a lot of options to work with. It's always trying to find this, a good match, and teach us about a good match, but it's doing it in a way that's hard to accept. And, with Saturn retrograde, it could also be just inhibiting us from, kind of doing things our own way, or being ourselves in the company of new love opportunities, or even having those attractive, or attracting or manifesting those opportunities, because again, it's sort of trying to, it's helicopter parenting. The nice thing about this is Saturn's going retrograde for a good 3 to 4 months here. Okay, so the pressure is off. If you've been feeling like maybe Saturn's making it harder to communicate with a lover, or maybe even harder to communicate and bond with a child, the pressure is off. Whatever dark cloud has been looming overhead, if it's been looming overhead, is going to dissipate and lighten up. It's sort of like a recess from a really hard term at school. Now, it's important to take this recess seriously. We do need to be working out these issues, but that means that at least we're going to have some breathing room. It's going to be easier to work these things out. Saturn's always nicer to people who do their homework when he steps out of class, and which is what he's going to be doing up until the summer. So, well, summer here in the Northern Hemisphere. So keep that in mind. Don't just, don't slack off, but enjoy your break. Enjoy your opportunity to, again, have a bit more freedom of choice, freedom of experimentation, and freedom of conversation with your love opportunities, and, again, even your kids, because it looks like Saturn's going to be finally taking away whatever might be inhibiting those opportunities for closeness that have been there since the beginning of the year. On the 9th of the month, we've got Mercury going retrograde in Taurus in your 10th house of career. And this can actually be kind of a nice, liberating energy. Yes, it will make things frustrating on the career and on the work front, especially when it feels like a lot of new initiatives aren't going forward as fast as we would like. But you may be finding it's time to actually entertain old opportunities at this time. Entertain old callbacks. Old callbacks could be coming for you towards the, especially in the latter half of this month with Mercury retrograde here. The important thing to pay attention, though, is that with Mercury retrograde in the 10th house of career, it's time for an image shift. Whether it's an image shift at the office, an affiliation shift, paying attention to the company that we keep. Because with Mercury retrograde, we may be noticing that some of the people we've recognized as role models, people we've tried to emulate, or maybe even just people that we enjoyed working with aren't really going to be going the distance with us. And it's time to reevaluate where we may have left some important people by the wayside in the past, or where we need to kind of pick up and move on to another group and evaluate that. Don't commit until Mercury goes direct in May, but at this point in time, when it comes to getting your money, this is what you need to do. The nice thing about Mercury retrograde in the 10th house, however, is that old money and old financial opportunities will be coming back to you as well. When we say old money, this could be, an old job, this could be an old prospect, or possibly even an old opportunity to renegotiate a raise or a promotion for yourself. Something that may have been put on the table and taken off in recent history will be put back on for you to take. On the 11th of the month, we've got a full moon going on in your 3rd house of communications, the area that talks about contracts, pacts and promises, obligations. And this is a point where a lot of you Leo people may be trying to make a break for freedom. Is there some kind of binding contract, a legal agreement, or maybe even, a financial agreement that you don't want to commit to anymore, but you feel bound? Are we trying to get out of a payment plan? Are we trying to get out of a lease? Are we trying to relieve ourselves of sort of a chain that's been kind of wrapped around us? Well, over the course of the 2 weeks following this full moon in Libra, from the 11th to about the 25th, a lot of you Leo people will be able to do just that. Break the chain, cut the cord, and move on. This is also an excellent time for those of you that need to be thinning the herd in, again, associations you don't want to keep anymore. So some social pruning is also on the horizon. On the 15th, we already covered that. We talked about Venus going into your 8th house. So we already did that, so I don't want to do it again. I don't know why I wrote it down twice. So let's move on to the 19th, with the Sun moves into that 10th house of career, where he will be all the way up until the 3rd week of May. And again, we're getting more out of our work. We're getting more pay, we're getting more money, we're getting more promotional opportunities, and we're noticing we're getting into, let's just say, slightly more elite or enviable circles. We're kind of moving in a new networking circle when it comes to our career. And again, changing how we actually embody our life's work. And with the Sun in your 10th house, even with Mercury as retrograde, again, time to pay attention to where we're not actually taking something small as seriously as it needs to be. Small things are going to have a bigger payoff during this time, much bigger payoffs than, say, large sweeping initiatives and transformations. And you may actually notice following a new moon in this area on the 26th that some of you may be in line for a big promotion or a big raise, something that's going to actually boost your upward mobility in a huge way. And I see a lot of upwardly mobile Leos and Leo rising people and Leo moon people, especially as we get into early May. On the 20th, we've got Pluto turning retrograde in your 6th house of reputation, physical health, and your work. And with Pluto retrograde, there's kind of, it's got dual meaning. Okay, we've got things coming up from the past. Again, a lot of things are coming up from the past this month. And we've also got an opportunity to lay things to rest. Now, with Pluto retrograde in the 6th house of physical health, there could be some old health issues that come up that need to be faced that may not have necessarily been cleared, or maybe they've always been kind of chronic, and we're just going to be working on trying to get those taken care of more permanently. Pluto's going to be retrograde here all the way up until September. This is, however, a beautiful time to get back into a place in your health if you're trying to get back to a better place. If you're not feeling well right now, if you feel like you want to get back to feeling healthy, this is the time where we bring that situation back into our lives. As far as reputation and work is concerned, a lot of you are going to be kind of going back to an older way of doing things, an older schedule, or back to an older path or an older plan that's actually going to be very well received by people you need to know what you are doing when it comes to your work. However, with this retrograde, it's always important to remember, there's a big lesson with Pluto retrograde. We can't take everything with us into every new situation. There's got to be room made. And since there's such a big theme of pruning and downsizing going on this month for you, Leo, I'm not surprised. So when Pluto goes retrograde, it's important to pay attention between now and September, the goals that you have for your work, your health, your reputation. What are you trying to make fit that won't fit there anymore? You have to make room for this new development. You have to clear out that clutter. It's the beginning of all that spring cleaning. On the 21st, we've got Mars, the planet of action and energy, going into your 11th house of friendships and social networking, Gemini, where he will be all the way up until the end of May. And with Mars in your friendship zone, you can expect to be actually spending more time with people that are your true blue friends. There's no room for anyone if they're not a BFF at the end of this month. And Mars in the 11th house can also indicate an ally. A strong ally or a champion coming out of your social circle and getting a lot of work done on your behalf, whether it's extra things you cannot handle, or if you do need someone to stick up for you, back you up, to kind of be that witness on your behalf, to be that testimonial, that character boost. This is the person for the job. With Mars in the 11th house, we tend to have a bit of a guardian. We have, again, one of our friends stands up as the stalwart, standing fast, so to speak. And I think a lot of you are going to be nice and happy with having a strong expansion to your team, but also somebody who is committed absolutely to your success. Finally, at the end of the month, we have Venus moving into Aries, into your 9th house of travel, long distance travel, marketing, as well as government legal proceedings, your academia, and it's really more of a May angle because it happens at the very, very end of this month. But if you've been feeling like, again, this Venus retrograde's been really hard on your ability to expand, whether it's to make a move, whether it's to carry on a long-distance love, or to get into the school or academic or government program of your choice, or to get the respect, or get, maybe to get the authorization, or the permits, or the licensing to do what you need to do, Venus is finally in good shape, not in a shadow, not in retrograde, and ready to start making amends on what could have been mucked up over months before, or what has been held up for too long. We finally have Venus actually trying to work this out in your favor expediently. So we have a wonderful end to the month as well. So that is your horoscope, Leo. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate it. And of course, if you'd like to get a session, you can always follow the links below, or go to integratedmysticism.com.